Skirious Problems.
Right, Mika, what's your skirious problem then, mate?
Mate, my skirious problem is that we have the perfect guest on today to ask a question that I've heard a few stories about it. I've heard a few rumors about it, and it's about parasports, because after the Olympics means it's before the Paralympics. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about parasports in general, I guess. And maybe we'll get some heat in there as well, because apparently our guest has some heat as well. So it's cool to welcome you on the pod, Dani Aravich. Before we forget it, our guest today, Dani Aravich, she also has her own podcast. And if you guys want to find out more about the story of the journeys of all these incredible para-athletes, and maybe get to know some of them a little bit closer, make sure to check out her podcast. It's called Hidden Champions, and you'll find it on any podcast platform. Maybe the one you're listening to right now. Check it out. I have a question.
Thank you so much.
That I want to ask you straight away. I need to hear it from the inside. So it's 2 years ago now that parasports was integrated into FIS?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first World Championships that were happening in Lillehammer 2 years ago.
Uh-huh. Wait, 2 years ago, Lillehammer.
Maybe 3.
No. We had Lillehammer 2022.
Okay, so then it's 4 years ago already.
Yeah, but it wasn't run by FIS at the time.
Okay. So
Mika really has his facts straight. Like, he did so much research before.
I did
Which
no
one are you
research
referring to?
at all. So I heard this rumor that the first time that the para world championships were held in cross-country skiing that were hosted by FIS, all of a sudden there came all these FIS rules into parasports, which not always are applicable to parasports, because some people just miss certain body parts where they cannot do certain things. So apparently at the sprint, they made double polling tracks. And because at the sprint, you have to double pole at the start, but then they kind of didn't really think about there being athletes that were missing both arms. And then it's a bit hard to double pole if you don't have any arms. Is there any truth to this story? And if no, please still let it be a story, because it's just too good to let the truth stand in the way.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to... Yeah, we had Lillehammer in 2022, which was so weird that we had one a month before the Paralympic Games, but it was because it was delayed from COVID. But I don't think that's when we were with FIS. So I'm trying to remember the first FIS one, but honestly, that doesn't... I've been in the sport since, and I've been at every World Championship since, and now my memory is probably just not helping me out here, but that wouldn't surprise me, though. No one knew anything when FIS started with parasport, and this happens all the time. I enter a lot of non-para races back in the US, like super tours and nationals and stuff like that, and they always try to make me do a double pole start in a sprint in a skate race, and I'm like, I'm going to lose the race in the first 15 meters because me single polling compared to these double polling, I'm going to lose. So that seems pretty freaking unfair. So I don't totally remember, but yeah, we'll say it's a story.
Okay, so it's definitely true. FIS made disabled people that were missing arms double pole for a skate sprint.
Yeah, double pole start.
Shame on you, FIS. Shame on you.
Yeah, but when you watch it now, there isn't a double pole start in the skates, which is ideal. Because, there's people skiing without poles, there's people skiing with one pole, and so it's quite a variety, and that definitely puts people at a disadvantage.
How does it actually work, the whole thing? How's it set up? Because I just remember from watching it on, I think it was actually when it was in Lillehammer, I was watching it on television, and then I was just like, wait, there's a million different categories, and then some people start while others just wait, and then they start a bit later than the rest, and I didn't really get it.
And then there's in Trondheim there was a sprint finish between a guy that had no no poles and the girl that had both poles and both skis, and it was super tight finish.
So how's it set up? How does it work?
So classifications, when you're watching it on TV, it can be really confusing, and it's basically the system to try to make it fair, because there's not enough categories for all the one pole skiers or no pole skiers. And so there's 3 overarching categories. There's the sitting category, so people using the sit ski. There's the standing category, so people like me who can stand on 2 skis but either have a minor leg impairment or arm impairments, and then the visually impaired category. So then there's like classifications within those, and that leads to this percent number. Like when you watch the interval starts, you'll see a percent next to our name. And that's actually the percent of time that will end up on the result. So, like in skating, the one pole skiers are 96%. And then in classic, we're 92 because they found through research that it's more of an impact on classic skiing for us using one pole than it is for skate. And so you'll see those different numbers. So in the sprint, you do your qualifier, they do the factor, and then they apply that factor ahead of time. So that determines your start. So, like someone who's the most impaired, AKA gets the most time off their result, they actually start first and then it goes back from there. So the goal is for everyone to finish at the same time or around there based on that number. So that's why you saw people starting way before others. And so if you're a lesser impairment, which oftentimes like my classification is, we are playing catch up that whole race to try to get to that person who has a larger impairment and got that head start. So it's kind of a tricky game. And truthfully, sometimes it works against you, like certain days, certain conditions, they don't change the factor based on that. So like if a course is more hilly, like that can be better actually for people who don't use any arms because they are still able to like do the hill well. Whereas if it's a flat section, them basically striding when other people are double pulling, they're at more of a disadvantage. So it sometimes plays in your favor and sometimes plays very much against you. So yeah, in Trondheim, Jimmy, you saw athletes, with different disabilities coming in probably around the same time, but they had different start times.
Yeah, for sure. But it did end up being quite exciting, to be honest. Like it was like a sprint finish, and so that was pretty cool actually. But do you think there's any way to make it more fair, or is this the best system there is?
It's tough. So we are actually only one of 2 sports that use the factor system. Alpine skiing that uses it too. So if you watch para alpine at the games, you'll see that same percent. I actually was a para track and field athlete, so that's the largest para sport, and we were able to have enough classifications that it was divvied up more. So I raced only head to head against people with a single arm impairment, but there's just not those numbers in the winter sports quite like there is in the summer. And so it is the best system, but it doesn't mean the numbers right now are the best because it kind of feels like sometimes you're like, who came up with 96? Like, where did 96% like emerge from? And it's from research and studying, past results and all this. But obviously there's always going to be outliers. There's always going to be people who maybe they just utilize their impairment way better than what most people would be able to do. So there's always going to be these like crazy little factors involved with it. And so what we need is more like universities to keep doing research, to keep trying to improve those numbers. And something you'll see at the Paralympics too, we do one relay. It's a cross-country relay, and it's mixed gender and mixed disability, but you can choose whoever you want as long as you stay under this certain points. So you basically take your classification points. They subtract 15% if you're a sit skier compared to standing or visually impaired, and then 12% for women. And we're like, who decided 12% for like women are 12% more impaired than men? And so it's like these weird math formulas, and you hope that people get like pretty close. And it usually is pretty exciting because then it's a head-to-head race, like first to the line, and it's very strategic, but everyone is like, where did you come up with these numbers? Like they feel made up sometimes.
But I can see that actually being good for entertainment on television, which is basically why we all do sports, no matter who it is, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, but
I think it's still confusing.
Yeah, and I feel there needs to be for a sport to be really exciting, there needs to be at least a bit of you need to be able to like predict a little bit what's going to happen, or like have an idea of how things going to happen. If it feels too much like it's a bit of a gamble, it depends so much on the track, or like just random numbers that decided, then I think it maybe unmotivates people.
Yeah. I think that the sprint is fun though, because then you can see people like start to chase people down. Whereas I know for you guys too, it's like people still complain about the interval starts being not as exciting to watch on television. And that's what the majority of our races are. Like, it's really hard for us to do a mass start because of all these number formula type things. And so the mass start isn't really a good option for us right now. Like, it won't produce probably a fair result. And so most of our stuff is interval start and not head to head. And I think that's what makes it least appealing for a viewer, is when you're just watching interval, interval, interval.
Something spicy that I've heard about, especially the visually impaired people. Like, apparently there's lots of people that actually see way better than they claim to, and therefore they get like a lower percentage of what you just explained. Is that something that's happening, or is that just like trash talk?
No, it's so real. It's called classification doping.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's the terminology. So it's literally where athletes, so everyone has to go through this basically medical appointment to determine which of those categories you belong in. And particularly for disabilities that aren't visible, like I'm so easy. They're like, okay, your hand isn't growing back. You are this category. Whereas for people who have spinal cord injuries or like things that are different muscular coordination that you can't see that are and visual impairments, like obviously that is something we can't see what's going on fully there. They basically, some people have been known to like basically lie about how disabled they are, because then it helps them get a bigger factor, so more time off their result. And it's out there, like, this classification receives this percent. And so some people in the past, yeah, have definitely exaggerated their disability. Like, people have gotten caught for it too, like in
You're
paratrack
talking
and
about the
field, people have
past,
gotten caught for it.
so it's not happening anymore.
Oh, I mean, there's probably some in the current too. It's just everyone, makes conclusions in their head, and people can actually like submit a claim to say, I disagree with this classification of this other athlete. And then FIS and the classification team is supposed to like evaluate it and potentially have them redo the appointments and take evidence. Like, so you'll literally see people almost at every race, like videotaping other athletes from other nations, like coaches or staff. And often it's to gather evidence to say, like, I think they're in the wrong classification. And sometimes, it might not be intentional. Like, an athlete might have just not been them full selves on that day that they got evaluated, especially if they have, a spinal cord injury or some of these other things that do fluctuate. But yeah, there's definitely been people who intentionally misrepresent themselves. And it affects the outcome.
But I also heard, especially for visually impaired people, that there's like a big difference even still if you've lost eyesight somewhere due to an incident or illness or whatever makes people lose eyesight, versus people that have been blind from the very from since the day they were born. Because especially in cross country skiing, which is like a technical sport, it matters so much if you were able to see yourself ski in a mirror or on video, for
Yep.
example, versus people that are never able to see how they ski.
Yeah.
So apparently that's a huge
Yeah,
difference
that
as
can
well.
play into it.
Is there different factors for that as well? If you lose sight later on in life, or if you've never been able to see in your life?
No, it's based on the level of vision you have. But what's crazy about the VI category is the way they get their classification is in like when you've gone to an eye appointment and they like literally have you read letters to see, what level of contact lenses or glasses you need. That's basically what they do for para. But they do it in this like room, where the lights are a certain way, and light can play a huge factor on how someone can see in that moment, depending on their visual impairment. But like, as you guys know, yeah, courses like sunlight shining on snow, like there's so many other things that aren't considered. So someone could seemingly be this level of blind in the appointment, but then they get out on snow and it's either better or worse just due to being in a different environment with different light, different, sensitivities out there compared to like a doctor's office reading it. So the VI one can be really difficult. And there's 3 visually impaired classes within. So there's basically one that's like the least impaired, middle impaired, and then like fully blind. You do have to wear an eye black and they receive the most time off. So even if they did have a tiny bit of vision, they actually wear an eye black so they can't see at all. So they really have to rely on their guides, Whereas like some athletes, like one of the athletes on our team who has a visual impairment, he often skis not at para events and does quite well in like super
Wait, is
tour
this Jake
races, and he
Eddikoff?
doesn't. Yeah, Jake. Yeah, so Jake doesn't ski with a guide at a lot of non-para races, but he uses a guide at para races because, I mean, it makes sense for, you know, it especially being on like different types of courses and for drafting and stuff like that. But he's the least impaired, so he gets the least amount of time off. His actual time is 100%, so like his time is his time. He doesn't have the factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the Paralympic Games, when are they actually starting?
This weekend, right?
March 6th. No, one more week.
Okay.
Yeah, March 6th in Predazzo is opening ceremony, I guess, is March 6th. And then March 7th is the first biathlon, March 8th, the biathlon, and then the first cross country is the classic sprint on the 10th.
Okay.
Because you usually do both, but like you just both because you can, or how does that work?
For a long time, our sports were governed by the IPC rather than FIS and now IBU. And so athletes, like at every competition, would actually have the opportunity to do both. And for a lot of the nations, you know, like budgets are still like pretty low. And so it was logistically made the most sense to be able to like pair up cross country and biathlon since it did share a lot of the same athletes. And after it's split into FIS and IBU, there's been some like disagreement on how to run parasport. And so the races series now are split up, but they still try to play nice enough to be like, okay, this week in Poland will have IBU, and then the next week FIS will come in, or vice versa, or keep them on opposite weekends so athletes can then travel. So a couple athletes like Jake, he only does cross country. There's very few who only do biathlon. I'd say that's bigger on the cross country side. So a good chunk of us do both, which I think is great because we have a lot less World Cups than you guys, like on the cross country side or vice versa on IBU. So it's nice to be able to get in a lot more race reps as well. And I think biathlon's so fun.
How many races or World Cup races do you usually have in a year?
Oh gosh, since I started the sport in 2021, I'd say like usually you're probably looking at like 3 to 4 FIS race weeks. So like 3 to 4 races of each of those. And then probably same for IBU, 3 races, probably 3 different locations, 4 different locations. So a lot less. We're in Europe a lot less than you guys usually are.
Where are you guys around then, mostly?
I mean, I've had a lot of Canadian competitions. Like we had a biathlon world champs there. We actually had FIS and IBU World Cups there in December of this year in Canmore. We've had a US World Cup for both while I've been in the sport. But yeah, we usually like only come over for like a month or so because that's when most of the races, like our first ones, usually there's one in December. And then people will either go back to the States or to Canada or wherever if they're not European based. And then it continues like late January, early February, maybe something in March. So this has actually been one of our longest stints. We came over January 3rd to Europe for an IBU World Cup. And then we raced through the first week of February. And then our team decided to stay and do training camp leading into the game. So this has been one of our longest stints. And I don't know how like the US and Canadian Olympic teams do it for what you guys go from November till April, basically. It's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's British and I'm Austrian, so we don't really know what they're doing either.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't have to travel
Yeah.
overseas for long stints.
Basically, we do travel overseas for like one World Cup weekend every 2 years, and then we're all complaining about how expensive it is to travel overseas.
Yeah.
Like, like the Swiss Ski Federation, like we cannot send so many people because we're like the richest country in the world. But it's quite expensive to send people to the US for like 4 days.
Yeah, and what you guys have like Placid coming up too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
By the way, I was not
Yeah.
particularly pointing at the Swiss. I was just using them as an example for like every European ski federation ever.
You were
Sure,
definitely pointing at the Swiss, Mika.
Oh, I could be pointing at us Austrians as well because we're only going to send a small team, and I could be pointing at like literally every European ski federation.
That's true.
Jimmy, you guys did great also, by the way. We were cheering
Yeah,
very
thanks.
loud for
Good
Team
Olympics
GB.
for Team GB, yeah.
You have one sole athlete. Have you met him? Scott Mina from GB, who does biathlon.
I was gonna ask you about him because he, if I'm not wrong, he was. We did actually lots of training camps with them as well.
Oh,
The para
nice.
team, they used to be much bigger, and
Yeah.
there's super cool athletes. Like they're
Yeah.
so super nice guys, but they also like train like really hard actually, and they do like they're
Mhm.
so strong and so explosive. It's crazy, but
Yeah, a lot of ex-military on the GB team.
yeah.
So for people that wonder, ex-military, that means the lots of people that were in military accidents. So like especially
Exactly.
in, I think like in
Yeah.
Iraq or
Iraq
Afghanistan, that's where
often,
they like
yeah.
got over these
Mhm.
like mines and stuff and just lost legs. And
Yeah.
it's cool to see though that the British government is actually still working with the people and supporting them doing like parasports, because obviously they like put their life on the line for their government. I'm not gonna say their country, but their
Mhm.
government. And then it's cool to see like, okay, yeah, but like we're not gonna just let you live paralyzed from now on. We're actually gonna support you in whatever you want to do now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stuff they learn in the military can translate really well to elite sport. Like, obviously, there's a lot of discipline aspects and regimented routines
Yeah.
and hard work. So I think that can translate really well into elite level sport after they leave the
Is
military.
that a thing in the US as well,
We
actually?
have a couple on our team now of like, I think we're sending 13 to the games between men and women. Two of ours were injured during in Afghanistan and Iraq earlier 2000s. And so yeah, we have two. I think it's a lot bigger in summer sports. Like I see a lot of track and field athletes, stuff like that. Um but yeah, so it's definitely present a lot. I mean, like the Ukrainian team, there's a lot who were injured due to war and a lot of other nations. So it's definitely present in parasport. Honestly, it's like one of the best pipelines for parasport is looking at military.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the military supports the British para team
Hmm.
for cross country, I think. But what I was gonna say is, so Scott was doing cross country skiing and biathlon,
Hmm.
and because apparently the groups or how do you call it, categories got changed,
Classifications.
classifications got
Hmm.
changed. Then for him it was not worth trying to race cross
Cross
country
country.
anymore, and so he just did biathlon because
Yeah, he
yeah, it's just like if you're on the right side of the cut, then it can be a big advantage, and he was on the wrong side, so it's a bit of a shame to see things like this. Like he did get a medal at the World Championships for cross country a few
hmm
years ago.
Yes. Yeah, Scotty's only doing biathlon. Yeah, that so the men's sitting field, the sit ski category is the largest field by far and the most competitive. Like there's I think at our recent World Cup, there was like close to 50 some racing, which is a pretty big para field. And it's Scotty is the least impaired class. It's the LW12, so they get no factor time. And there's just like a lot of really fast athletes in those lower classes. And so they're like really fast and they get that percent off. And so it makes it really hard if you're in that LW12 class to like compete with the top. Whereas obviously biathlon has that level of unknown because of the shooting. Like it can put people more on equal playing field sometimes with ski speed if people are shooting better than others. And so yeah, Scotty's focused on biathlon. He's actually at our training camp. We do almost like everything with Team GB, aka Scott, because he's the only athlete right now. So it's the US team and Scotty at training camp right now.
Something that I find super cool about parasports is that, especially in the sitting category,
Mhm.
there's like a tradition of big brands like Formula One teams. I think, was it not for the GB team that Williams
Oh yeah, Scotty has a
they
Williams.
make like the sleds, the
Yeah,
The sled, yeah.
a super good German para athlete as well, Andrea. What's her second name?
Oh, Escobar,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's quite old. I think it's
Yeah.
the last. No, I meet her in Livigno quite often, and I always talk to her. And I felt like she's already
Yeah,
said like three
she's
times that
fun.
this were gonna be her last her last Paralympics, and then
And she did cycling too in summer para.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
I think that her bike was made by
Yeah, maybe her
Toyota or
bike.
something, and her sled
Yeah,
as
one of the
well.
athletes on our team has a Toyota Racing sit ski. Yeah, the tech behind them can be really interesting. Same for the para alpine, like the downhill sleds and sit skis, like especially with the shock absorption they need. There's a lot of technology, and I mean these sleds, like they're fully carbon custom pieces, so that's why it's really hard to also like develop young disabled kids in sit skiing because it's like, think about how quickly you grow out of your clothes as a
Yeah.
kid. Now, imagine growing out of your
Yeah.
wheelchair and your sit ski, like you're doing it at such a rapid pace, and there's not like a ton that exists that are just like up for grabs because they're so specialized. So it's really difficult to like develop it from a young age. But yeah, the tech and the money involved in these, like there's a wheelchair racer. So the wheelchair marathons are actually huge. Like all the major marathons in the world for road running have a wheelchair category that actually, like London does the same prize money for the wheelchair class as the men's and women's elite field. And there's an athlete who's the fastest in the world. He's Swiss, and a Formula One team like spent, I think, like 5 years developing his racing chair, and it's like the fastest one anyone's ever seen. And so there is a lot of investment in it, which is really cool, but also obviously makes that hard for like a grassroots level and for like
Yeah.
young athletes to try to get access to like really good equipment. So that's one of the niches or nuances of parasport too, is the equipment side is intense.
But I do feel that the equipment side is really cool, especially in the cycling when they have like the low bikes, because they're so little drag. They actually go insanely high speeds. Do they not even go faster in a roller in a see now I forget all the words. The wheelchair. Do they not even go faster in wheelchair marathons than the runners sometimes?
Oh yeah. No, they go way
They
faster.
go-
They're doing it in like hour and a half.
Oh no.
The marathon. Yeah, they go way faster.
It's
I mean,
insane.
wheels are faster than legs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but still, like, I find that very impressive. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
that's cool.
I actually had a few questions because we've talked about para sports and so on, but we haven't really talked about your life. I think you were born with your disability, and like, so do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I was born missing my left hand and forearm, and I grew up in Boise, Idaho. I was introduced at an early age to alpine skiing because we had like a little mom and pop ski resort in town, but mostly did the traditional ball sports growing up, like soccer, basketball, softball. And then while I was in high school, actually, I found cross country long distance running, and I really gravitated to it because it kind of felt like the first time I wasn't having to adapt something to like be able to compete against people who didn't have disabilities. And so I ended up getting an opportunity to run at a university at the Division 1 level. And so I went there. I was running. I wasn't really loving it and ended up deciding to quit and kind of focus on my career. So I actually worked in professional sports for a number of years. I worked for an NFL team, a couple NBA teams, so professional basketball in the US. And then someone was like, "Hey, you should check out Parasport." And I was like, not knowing anything about it, thought it was for people who use wheelchairs or who were blind, like didn't realize that an amputee missing their hand fit the bill. And I started training in 2019 again for running, and was trying to just see if I could even make the trials standard to go to the Tokyo trials. And ended up, yeah, giving up my job to try to train and compete to get back into top running form to see if I could make that. And it was actually in very late 2019, early 2020, where I got an email from the US Para Cross Country Ski Team, and they asked if I wanted to try the sport at an event, a big adaptive sports event. So I went to Colorado and tried cross country skis for the first time. And I think I had a chip on my shoulder because I grew up alpine skiing. I'm like, okay, like how different can this be? It's very different. So I put on these two sticks on my feet and I was like, oh my God, I'm so bad at this. Like, how does someone balance? How, like, do you do this efficiently? And I was so bitter after a few days that I was so bad because I was used to being somewhat good at sports that then I was like, well, now I have to figure this out. And I was living actually in Salt Lake City, Utah at the time for my job. And so I entered like a couple local ski races and again, just like flopped around and was so bad. And ultimately Tokyo, got delayed for the Olympics and Paralympics due to the pandemic. So usually you have 18 months between the summer and winter, and now you only had 6 months in between Tokyo and Beijing. And so it was very much a gamble if I'd be able to make it. And Beijing was definitely a long shot because I was so new to skiing. But kind of in my favor, they need women for the fields. And so I was able to qualify, but I was still so young as a skier, and I was running half the year, a shorter distance in track. So I wasn't really like getting a ton of volume hours in. And so after Beijing, I decided like skiing definitely, like really captured that endurance love that I had more than the track event I was running, and so I decided to give up track, focus on skiing. But I have to say, learning cross country skiing in your mid-20s is the hardest thing in the world. Like, I envy any of you who grew up doing cross country skiing because, like, the things you gotta, like, flop around on skis and figure out how to like set your kick pocket and figure out all these little technique things that can be very clunky. I had to do that in like a 25-year-old
Yeah.
body, and whereas a lot of people got to do it as little kids. And so I'm at a great disadvantage. I mean, like, even in parasport, like, even though some people did acquire their disabilities later or found the sport, like, particularly in the visually impaired and standing categories, um, people started skiing at a young age. Like, I'm competing against a Norwegian, who started skiing to school when she was 3 years old. And like the Canadians, it's way more ingrained in their culture too. Like Canada's a really strong nation in parasport. A lot of, yeah, the European nations. And so like I'm competing with 6 years of skiing under my belt against people who have done it since like they could walk. And it's really challenging to learn. And it's so frustrating that then you become addicted to figuring out. And I feel like as soon as I think I'm like nailing a technique thing, then it's like, oh, that opens up a whole new conversation of something else. And you're like, Jesus, I thought I finally understood this one thing. And now I have so much more to learn. So I think I have hopefully a long ski career ahead, even though it doesn't really match my human age. Like I'm turning 30 this year, but I've only been skiing, yeah, 5.5-ish.
You're from 96
Yeah,
then?
I'm a 96er.
Yeah,
Are you a
we're still
96er?
up and coming. We're still I'm
We
96 as
got
well. We're
time.
still young. Like, what are you on about?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. I don't know, but so much of my competition is in like some of them are in their early 20s and they're kicking my ass because they've just been skiing longer than me.
yeah.
And so it's a hard thing to learn at this, at this stage in life, like learning this sport. And it's so different than any other sport. I think that's one thing that I was so stunned to find with it is like even that when I was training distance running, like volume wise, this is so much more volume than I ever had to do for running, 5K races. Like it's a lot of training.
Yeah, or it's just because you don't get injured as easily as running, for example,
Yeah,
then you
we
can just
can
train way more.
handle the volume.
So yeah.
That's true.
Do you also work or?
Yeah, so I am taking actually like 2, 3 months off work right now, but I worked the entire time I've been competing. And so it was like I was doing summer and winter and working. So I kind of worked after I left working in the NBA. I started working in like social media. So I worked for like a food brand. I ended up kind of in the casting world. So I was like doing casting projects for Facebook and then ended up working for actually Team USA, so the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, and I worked in digital media, and then I started a Paralympic media company with 3 other Paralympic athletes where we basically exclusively cover parasports, and as many parasports as we can, and so that's what's really, taking a lot of my time right now is focusing on trying to cover the Paralympics while also competing in them.
Yeah, I can imagine.
A question about parasports, actually, that I'm actually curious about.
Mhm.
How professional is it? Like the athletes, just pure athletes, like
Yeah.
how, like, is it comparable to like a non-disabled professionalism kind of lifestyle, or
What do you mean by professionalism, though?
not professional as in how much of a job is it,
Mm.
or also can it be? Because at the end of the day, also something has to pay for the bills, and you have to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
food on
yeah.
the table. That's
No, great
what I
question.
mean by professionalism. How much of a full-time job is it?
Yeah, I'd say the vast majority of athletes aren't working other jobs because training takes too much time. Like, I was really lucky that all my stuff was remote, so I was able to work like in between training sessions. I didn't have to show up to an office. I think a couple of our like younger athletes, at least from the States, who are more like college age, like they might work a weekend job. We have one who's working at like the Home Depot right now. and but yeah, like most of the other athletes from other nations, like they are full-time traveling, training. Like you look at the volume of like the top probably VI men and standing men, like their volume is probably pretty similar to you guys in terms of like getting upwards of 1,000 hours a year, stuff like that, like really consistent, I'd say, with the Olympic side of cross country. One thing though that is unique is I feel like the sit ski category from para cross country, several of those athletes from different nations do a summer sport as well because like the motion of since they only double pole, that motion can actually translate really well to like a hand cycle or a wheelchair racing chair. We have an athlete who does para triathlon. So you might see that with the sitting category as some of that crossover to the summer sports because obviously still big endurance sports, but since they're not training like skate and classic technique and it's way more of
Yeah.
a power based motion, they're able to translate that well. But yeah, the standing and VIs like are training like a lot of the ones in the States competed for colleges, like they're on elite level club teams like Jake. In Canada, they train alongside like their Olympic biathlon team up in Canmore, the para athletes. And so, yeah, it's definitely, I'd say at a close professionalism level in terms of that. And similar probably to the Olympic side, like unfortunately, para cross country and I feel like cross country skiing isn't always the most like marketable sport. So maybe like sponsors aren't always coming and knocking on people's doors, but I think some people are making it work, depending on your nation and the setup they provide for the athletes and national teams and stuff like that. But something that'll be different for so our team specifically in the US for paracross country and biathlon, we've actually been managed by the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. So we actually aren't under US ski and snowboard, but we are moving under them next year. So we will be a part of the US ski and snowboard conglomerate. Para Alpine, Para Snowboard moved under them 2 years ago. And so we will be like one team with the US ski and
Is it
snowboard
a
team.
good thing or bad thing?
I think overall it will be a good thing. I think it will hopefully help with visibility a lot because I think one thing for para sport that we like constantly need, honestly, and it sounds kind of sad, but like is that support and recognition from our peers. And I think you can get it once you like, it sounds like Jimmy, you have it with Scotty because you've like spent time, you witness like the work ethic, you get to see, how strong and elite these are. And like I definitely feel that a lot with our I've spent a lot of time with our US biathlon team. Like I do their training camps, I do their competitions often home in the States and a little bit with US ski and snowboard. I'll like when we're all in Bend, Oregon, I'll do some workouts with them and stuff. And so I think hopefully that will make it more, seemingly in this world of ski and snowboard sports, like make us more legitimate being connected to US ski and snowboard. Hopefully we'll amplify that quite a bit and bring some more eyeballs to the sport would be my hope. But it is the US. Like unfortunately, cross country and biathlon are not our
Yeah.
top sports that people care about.
And then something else that because one thing that's like hilarious and I can't help it is the Paralympic TikTok account. Like I don't know,
Oh my
was it
god.
was it in uh Tokyo or Beijing where they did it the first time? I don't actually know, but I just know I opened TikTok just one time and then I'm like, this can never have been approved of the athletes. Like, how do you guys feel about
Yeah.
that? I mean, it is like it makes up for content and like you're
Yeah, it makes
gonna
content.
have a laugh at a point in time, but like how do you guys feel about the way they
Yeah, that's a good question. It's kind of like a hot topic of conversation, honestly, across the para world. I think most athletes don't love it because it does feel like they're making fun of us all the time. Like I definitely understand like I work in social media playing into a trend or like stuff like that, but it almost takes it to a level or degree that feels very diminishing sometimes. And so, yeah, I hope that it, I think right now they have a campaign that's coming out on Instagram. I've been seeing these past few days that's really highlighting like the elite stuff of sport, like talking about like para alpine. They're going almost as fast as the Olympic alpine athletes, but they're doing it blind or they're doing it in a sit ski, like trying to really showcase those like elite things and some of these considerations within the sport. So that seems good, but yeah, the TikTok's tough because I think, parasport, like all we really want is to be taken seriously because we are taking it seriously. Like, as you said, we're showing up, professionally. People are doing this as careers. People are training similar hours to their Olympic counterparts. Like, we know the numbers are smaller, but like there's still good competition, and it's really serious to us. And so that does kind of feel like it's poking fun at everything we're doing. Like, this isn't an extracurricular, this isn't like a hobby, this isn't a joke to us. Like, this is our professional sports careers, just like it is for you guys.
Yeah. Also, like people like I that are very easily influenceable by TikTok and Instagram. Like we kind of, or I think it's hilarious and funny because you see, it's like the Paralympic committee that does or that runs the TikTok account and that does all of these videos. So then it must have been approved by the athletes. So then it's like, if they think it's funny, I think it's funny. But now that you say it, it's actually not that funny. I could actually see a world in which it could be a bit demoralizing.
I see exactly your point. Like, it's if you see it from like a person that's working hard to be good at their sport, then it's very rude. And
and I think it's a balance. You think about like even our FIS cross country account that posts about y'all, like they're going to highlight the really like glorious, incredible athletic moments. But then, sometimes there might be like a hilarious fall or like a crash that like that's kind of silly and funny, and they put over a goofy little audio. Like, I think there's like a time and a place, but it does feel like sometimes the IPC account is doing it all the time and not giving those like high athletic moments their credibility.
Yeah, because if you look at like the non-disabled part, like there's fun being made of a lot of things, but it's exactly what you say. If you look at the Paralympic account, it just feels like there's only fun that's being made and not a single actually outstanding performance that's put into the light. Like, especially there's this one guy that comes straight into my mind. It's and I'm so sorry, but I just don't know the names. There's a Chinese guy that skis with no arms, and he goes,
Fists. That video blew
he
up.
goes so quick. It's
I know.
unbelievable. It's like
I know
every time, and he pops up on my feed actually quite often. Like, I'm not gonna say daily, but I'll like quite regularly. And anytime I see him
and that's what
ski,
we're trying to tell
I'm
people. Like,
how the hell do you ski so fast without arms? Like,
dude, that's why, like, when the Clavo video was blowing up, it was cool. It's like finally it felt like the internet was giving people like cross country skiing appreciation. It's like people were just like, this is what cross country skiers do, and all cross country skiers were like, yeah, this is the sport. Like, this is how intense and hard and impressive it is. And I like left a few comments, and like I'm obviously very impressed by Clavo, and like what he did was insane. And I'm like, and imagine doing this without arms next. Like, we have the same hills at Val di Fiemme that you guys did, and like the athletes without poles or one pole or without vision are going to do those same climbs. And like, yes, if we put our best para athlete against the top level cross country, we're always losing. Like, we fully recognize that we're obviously disadvantaged, but like you can still appreciate the really good stuff that's happening in para. And like I find that wildly impressive too. I'm like, damn, I use one pole, but this guy's doing it with none.
And the thing that I feel with the Chinese guy as well, what's his name? Sorry.
Oh my gosh, I'd have to look it up.
Okay, I don't feel bad anymore because you don't know his name either.
No, well, see, China's an interesting nation in paracross countries because they're one of the best right now, but they weren't before Beijing. And then Beijing, they just like emerged in every classification and were so good. But then they don't race internationally for a few years. So we only saw them again for the first time I think they came to Biathlon World Champs last year. And now they're back this season, and everyone's like, shit, I forgot how good they are because they haven't been racing. And there's so many Chinese athletes. So I know the girls in my category's names because I see them on the results sheet, but I don't know all of their names.
But so then, just to finish my point that I was making, if you look at him, I feel like he's just like changed his technique towards skiing as fast as possible without poles, and it's like he's actually developed a whole new own technique. And I actually think, I mean, obviously, if it's gonna go like fast uphills, like, but if like as long as it's flat, I actually don't think that guy is so much slower than us without poles. It's like, have you seen the guy, Jimmy?
Yeah, I've seen the video. Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah, that's parasport. I feel like it's kind of like you seeing it for the first time. Now you're intrigued because you're like, well, now I want to see what this guy can do in a race scenario, and so that's where the visibility to para is so important. Is like people just need that like gateway introduction to it to be like, oh shit, okay, this is real sport and this is impressive sport. So it's like we need more of that to keep floating out to the rest of the internet so people can recognize that.
It's impressive, cool to see.
Right, Dani, we have a question we ask all of our guests. If you listen to the podcast, you know what's coming. If you are doing one session with two people in one place, your dream session, what would you do? Where would
People
you go?
Can be dead or alive.
Who would you go with? Can be anyone.
A training session.
Usually more training session. Yeah.
You could also do it like Remy Lindholm and go to the sauna with to the mixed sauna with Frida Karlsson, Eva Andersen. But usually people give like serious answers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna obviously shout out para athletes. So I am pretty close with Team Canada. I actually do quite a bit of their training camps, and even have had them like when our team might have less staff, they help me out a lot at competition. So I'm picking the best, probably one pole skier in the world, Mark Arens. This will be his 5th Paralympic Games, 12 medals. Like he is if you haven't seen Mark Arens ski, you have to watch him these games because we say arguably across every category in parasport, he has the best classic technique with one pole, and he's missing his arm high, so he doesn't even get the like swing of an extra arm. So watch Mark Arens ski, one of the best one pole skiers ever to exist. Brittany Hudak, who's my best friend from Team Canada. And so Mark would probably continue to work on one pole technique with us because I have only learned from people who don't have disabilities. Like I got thrown into a club team immediately, and like I was just skiing behind 2 pole skiers. We actually call them bipolars, is our little nickname for you guys who ski with 2 poles, are the bipolars. So I'd ski behind these bipolars and I V2 when I'm behind them so much in skating. And then when I spent more time with the one polars, they were like, why do you V2 so much? And I was like, I don't know. That's because what everyone without disabilities does. And they're like, it's such a waste like of time and energy to do that many pole strokes. Like you're not getting that much out of it when you only have one pole. And so they almost exclusively V2 alt. And so it's almost only V1 and V2 alt with maybe some V2 as some like transition stuff. And so Mark is one who I just like, I literally study how he V2 alts, like his crunch and then just his weight transfer with one pole. So he would give us a good one pole session. We'd focus exclusively on V2 alt. Brittany's also a one pole skier. And I'd also then we do some speeds at the end because she's usually faster than me in distance, but I can kick her ass in sprints, which feels good. And then we'd all go get a beer together because that's probably what we do anyways after a race.
But where are you going?
Oh, well, we're in Canmore, obviously.
I support Canmore.
I'm a sucker for Canmore. They live and train there. I go up for a month every year. It's like the best place I think there is in the world to cross country ski, terrain wise and like race course wise. Like obviously places in like Norway and even some places here in Italy, you can just go for miles and miles and it's so beautiful and you're in the forest. But Canmore, like the Canadian Rockies, like the town, it's so fun. And there is great restaurant bars there as
Yeah, I was
well.
gonna say, oh, this is like a bit of a nerdy session, but then you kind of saved it with the whole, we'll go out for beer and enjoy time.
But
Oh,
the
yeah.
one thing, like a nerdy session, I mean, let's say it's very specific what you said. It's very, very
Yeah,
specific.
yeah, very specific, yeah, but we end up having some pretty good para parties either with IBU or cross country, like, whenever we have World Cup finals, everyone's, chugging out of their crystal globes, sharing the germs from that, like, we had an IBU party in December in Canmore when that wrapped up, and, like, the Ukrainian team is the most fun team to drink with,
Oh,
though.
yeah.
They are
Yeah.
a hoot and a holler, yeah.
I can see that. Another question, like you got on the para team usually, like
Uh-huh.
everybody has this insane sense of humor. Because I remember with there's this para skier from Austria, or he quit his career actually, Markus Quatterhofer. And I remember the first time ever I went to the club with him, and then he's there on his wheelchair, and it's like in the middle of the dance floor, not giving a single fuck on what's happening around him. And then people just fall over him all the time. So at some point I'm like, oh, I just maybe I should take a bit care, be a bit nice. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what's gonna happen to me? Worst case, I'm paralyzed. And I was like, okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, not to be said for don't want to vastly generalize all people with disabilities, but like I do think there's a certain sense that, if you grew up with a disability, sometimes you were overcompensating for quite literally a lack of something else. So you like had developed more of a humorous, larger than life personality to, make up for maybe a lack of a hand or an arm or a use of your legs. And then, yeah, I don't know. I think para people do like, you're just so used to the world working against you in so many ways that you almost have to just, like, laugh things off to a certain degree. I mean, it's like, no offense to y'all and or any other, like, Olympic cross country skiers, but it's like, you finish your race, you get to, like, get home and put your feet up or whatever, like, no, this guy actually has to crutch his way home or, like, use his body that he just, like, destroyed double pulling for the entire race, and now wheel himself home. Like there's just so many and access an inaccessible space. Like there's so many things in this world that are not set up for people with disabilities that I feel like you're just so used to things working against you that maybe that leads to a bit of humor.
Yeah.
Maybe some sick humor.
It must be a bit difficult sometimes for yeah, like people like him to feel like they're getting a bit sugar coated by people.
Yeah, people also tend to bubble wrap us. Like they don't want to, yeah, say negative things, like say the unfortunate realities of like some people with disabilities are assholes. Yeah, some athletes are cheating or lying. Like some people are selfish. Like they're all of those things that exist not in disability also exist in disability. It's just the world is like afraid to talk about disability and so they have a tendency to bubble wrap it or like sports media, this is one of the reasons we started Cultured, they have a tendency to want to be like this inspirational story like, oh my gosh, he lost his legs in Iraq and now he goes on to be Paralympic champion. It's like, actually, that's probably not the story they wanted told, or like you're leaning into something that's really not the whole story just because you like the inspiration piece of it.
Yeah.
But tell you what, if you want to share some drama and make some exciting stuff on social media, we are always game. So
Okay, yeah. Well, you guys watch Para, and then I'll fill you in on any behind the scenes things that maybe didn't get picked up. I mean, yeah, that's what I'm hoping is that the broadcasters wherever they're based, do a good job because I think that helps it a lot too. Like instead of being, yeah, talking about those inspiration stories, be like, actually, no, this athlete lost to this athlete at world champs. So now there's probably some beef going on, or this athlete changed classification. So like all of that stuff. But yeah, very down to talk
for me,
about
the
the
Olympics
drama.
or like the Paralympics that were the biggest for me in summer sports were London 2012. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it was huge for Paralympics,
Yeah.
but it
Oh, it was.
hasn't quite
It hasn't happened again.
well, it hasn't quite happened in winter sports either.
No.
So it'll be interesting to see if Milan Cortina manages to do something.
Yeah, I think the internet right now, I'm just like deep into threads and Instagram comments. Like this shouldn't be my job, but it feels like it has to be because who else is going to do it for us? Is like all these people, are like post Olympics blues. What am I supposed to watch now? Like I'm so bored without the Olympics. It's like fucking guys, do you not know the Paralympics start on the 6th? So I'm like in threads and the internet, and it's been actually pleasantly surprising to like go in and prepare my like sassy comment back and seeing like tons of people who aren't athletes like already doing it, and I'm like, people maybe do care. And so I think there's hope for Milana Cortina, but I think the issue that we won't be able to do like London 2012 is because of the remote villages. Like it just makes like fans, it's inaccessible. Like we're the only sport in Predazzo. Milan only has sled hockey. Cortina is actually the biggest with curling, snowboard, alpine. And so it's like it doesn't make it easy for like fans, and I think that's what London 2012 did, is it like made the game so accessible to fans, which then actually leaves a really huge impact on that nation. Like GB has been like a leader in a lot of ways for disability inclusion since. And so I'm hopeful. I mean, this is selfish because I'm a part of the delegation and everything, but like Salt Lake 2034, I have a lot of high hopes for, just because it's one athlete village for the Winter Games, which never happens. And everything's within an hour drive of the airport and of the city. So I'm hoping that could be a games that becomes like the London standard of winter. But it is kind of sad when you like think about marketing and media, which is the world I exist in, that the place we have to go for an example happened now 14 years ago, where like nothing better has happened since. Like London is still the thing we use as the best example.
We're an hour in, but I have a last question before we end this. And it's like, this question is so dumb, and I'm actually so sorry for asking it, but I don't know, and I'm interested. Is there disabled ski jumping? Is there para ski jumping? No, that's not a thing. No. Okay, yeah, see, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, there's none of the freestyle sports. I think, I mean, never say never, but I think classification would be like too problematic. Like there is different classifications for each of the sports. Like alpine's most similar to us, but snowboard actually only has for women like a lower limb impairment category, and then for men a lower limb and upper limb. Sled hockey is only for people with lower limb impairments. Wheelchair curling, you just have to use a wheelchair. So there's not a ton of like variety in the sports yet, but maybe someday. I know the thing we really want to get. Yeah, wheelchair curling.
Do they also cheat with the finger like the Canadian guys were doing? Or
I don't think they'd be able to, because they push the stone from their chair with like a longer stick, or I don't know what you call it from. But there's no sweeping actually. So you actually have to be more precise because you don't have sweepers there. Yeah, so that's kind of a fun one. But yeah, our hope is, like as winter parasports grow, is women's sled hockey would be a huge one. Right now it's technically co-ed, but most of the teams are men. And so our hope would be in women's sled hockey. And then I know the president of the Paralympic committees, Andrew Parsons, he really wants more skating sports. Like I think speed skating would be a hope someday and stuff like that. But yeah, I think, there's room, but ski jumping would be hard. I wonder what type of impairments would do it. There is para bobsled though. That's not in the games, but it is like a World Cup sport.
Yeah, ski jumping would be tough, but
yeah, that would be tough.
But then I watched a guy skiing, the Chinese guy skiing with no arms, and then I'm like, wait, but it can be tougher than doing this.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. But yeah, everyone tune in. March 6th, opening ceremony, first cross country race. March 10th, classic sprint. If you liked watching Olympic cross country skiing, you're going to like watching Paralympic. You're going to see people without arms doing it. You're going to see people double pulling an entire course. You're going to see people skiing with guides at the same incredibly fast paces. And so if you liked Olympic, you'll also like Paralympic.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward. So
yeah.
Looking forward to watching. Thanks for joining the podcast, Dani. We wish you good luck for your competitions. We hope you do well. And Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a little comment. Tell us what you think about para sports. Which sport do you think should be included in the Para Games as well? That's an interesting one. And also let us know, how do you guys follow para sports actually, or the Paralympics? Because they're probably a little harder to follow on television as well, I guess, than the Olympics. So,
yeah, so it depends where you're located. In the US, NBC and Peacock, Canada, CBC, in the UK, Channel 4. The YouTube account for the Paralympics will put all the races up afterwards and often stream them live. And then for any of the snow sports, follow FIS Paris Snow Sports on social media because they'll be giving updates on that. And then follow the athletes you care about, and obviously follow Cultured so you can get all of the updates across all the sports there.
Nice.
with this one, your #1 Nordic skiing podcast. Peace out.
Skirious Problems.